You've seen the exact conditions needed for oil and gas to form. Callum, how do geologists actually know where that oil and gas is?
Well, the first thing they do is they go around the countryside and they look for rocks like these that we've got over here with the sandstones and mudstones outcropping. They kind of get a good idea that this is an area that has potential. Then what they do is they go out and they collect seismic. Now seismic is using sound to try and make an image of the Earth's subsurface. A bit like when you do a scan on a pregnant woman's tummy looking at the baby inside. It's very much the same technology, just different scales. And so the first thing they do onshore is they come along and they drill some holes. You go along and you drill holes, and then you put some dynamite or other explosives into those holes. Then you come along and you put a cable out that's got a whole bunch of listening devices on it called geophones. And then they go off and they let off a bang, 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 one at a time, and they listen very carefully. Then they take all that information and they produce a seismic picture. Now a seismic picture isn't as detailed as what we can see here in a photograph, but it gives them a really good understanding of the layers of rocks that they can see, how thick they are, and sometimes the sound properties can tell them a little bit more about the rock. Then they also look for areas where you've got a nice shape, that dome shape I talked about earlier. They go looking for those dome shapes first. When they see those dome shapes, then they come along and they drill those. And then so to drill those, they use one of these.
Oh, right.
Now this is just a baby. This is a very small one. They can be a lot bigger. They can be, that big. And this is a rock roller. So these wheels here, they turn around as it's being drilled, and it goes down and it turns up all the rock. And they go down looking for the oil. And the whole time they're going down, they've got mud that's coming through the center here, going out and pushing up little bits of rock back up to the surface. And that's where geologists come into play. They take those little bits of rock and they work out what the rock type is, and they try and make sure that they're in the right depth that they thought they were going to be. And they look for oil the whole time. Once they find oil, then they stop drilling and they try and test it to see how much or how fast they can get the oil to come back up to the surface. And that helps them work out how much oil they've got down the hole. When they're doing it at sea, it's pretty much the same idea. It's just they use ships to collect the information for the seismic to start with, and they tow long streamers and they use air guns. And they drill pretty much with the same technology, except for being on land. They've got a big floating barge out there that's got the same drill bits on. They drill to the same depth, and they've got geologists looking at the rocks again.
Okay, so when you're going through that process of the seismic study, on land you're using dynamite, out in the ocean you're using air guns. How do you know that's not impacting on the environment and the wildlife out there?
Well, we don't know for certain that it is or it isn't, but because we want to be responsible, we make sure that if we see a whale or a dolphin within 1 kilometre of the boat that's collecting the information, they stop collecting the information until they know that that whale or that dolphin has gone away from them. And to make sure that this is done properly, the boat has to hire at least 2 people that are not part of the boat to come and be observers. So these are people that come from like marine biology companies, and they come and do a lot of research. And while they're making sure that we're not harming any whales, they're also collecting all sorts of information about where whales were found, what whales were found where, what time of year, that can be used for many different studies.
Great, okay.